I am so delighted to be here with you. It's like being with family. And so I just got back from Portland, and I'm leaving next week for Salem, Portland, Pendleton, and other places. We'll be gone for actually over a week. And why are we doing this? Because our state is worth saving. Now, my friend Greg, he summed it up when he said, elections have consequences. And so a few minutes ago, I was talking to some of the children that Dwayne Stark had, and one of his daughters, they've adopted several, and this one adopted daughter's named Destiny. And I said, do you know what, Destiny? He said, your decisions determine your destiny. And she said, huh? And I said, yeah, the decisions you make are going to determine who you become. And you know what? That applies to all of us. The decisions that we make in the next 59 days will help determine the destiny and the course of this state for the next 2 decades. And I'm dead serious about that. I mean, I'm in for the next 8 years, which was a hard decision for us to make. I mean, many of you know we have 32 grandchildren, right? And I was retired. I was done with politics. 12 years in the legislature, co-chair of Ways and Means, run 15 months to try and become the governor, and then some guy after I lost up in Portland said, yeah, John may be a crook, but he's our crook. And Kate Brown is sitting in the wings, ready to take over if he goes. So what do you do with that, you know? I just said, okay, well, I'm term limited out, self-appointed. But then after being out for a year, and polls were being done, and reminders were being given as to why I wanted to be governor. And the thing that struck my heart was all the things I wanted to do as governor were not being done, right? None of them were. Did we have any more accountability? No. Did we have any more transparency? No. Do we have greater integrity in our state? Absolutely not. And so the question that really struck me was, well, if you were willing to serve for 4 or 8 years as governor 2 years ago, why wouldn't you be willing to serve for 4 or 8 years as Secretary of State where you could still do the things that you wanted to do? And there was no reason that I could come up with. Vic Atiyeh ran twice before he could win. Gordon Smith ran twice before he could win. And why? Because the first run you gain name recognition. Now I'm hoping that Bud breaks that tradition and wins on his first run. Let's give him a round for Selma to take back to him. And I'm doing all that I can to help him win. And I know that he's doing the same for me. But I want you to know we have the opportunity to change the course of this state. Right now, and I can attest to you that one-party rule for too long is not good for this state. And I imagine that's true for either party, but I'm certain it's true with the Democrats. We haven't had a Secretary of State that's been a Republican for 40 years. And so what does that mean? It means the Secretary of State has 72 auditors that should be used to determine how the people's money is being spent. And it should be used to open up the agencies and the programs and the departments, and where you have corruption or abuse of power or just stupidity and waste, it gets shown for what it really is so that we can make corrections. Well, that hasn't been happening. I mean, does it bother you that Cover Oregon, this website project, consumed over $300 million and never functioned yet? It bothers me. How does it make you feel when you think about Portland Public Schools, where they've got one school that's graduating nearly 90% of their kids and another one that's graduating closer to 50%? And of those that don't graduate, half of them end up in jail or in prison. It's wrong. I mean, would we allow that to happen for our own children? We wouldn't. And so why should we just sit back and let it happen for other people's children? I'm an advocate. Our family will be fine. I mean, when I was holding little Rose, thinking about what her future is going to be in Oregon, I thought she'll be fine because our family will help make sure she's fine. But then it's, well, what about these single parents up in North Portland who are struggling to get a job, or maybe they're working 2 or 3 at minimum wage, and they've got kids, and the kids are going to schools where they're afraid that their children will even come back without getting shot or beat up or bullied. We cannot sit by as people who care about our neighbors and do nothing. And so Kathy and I took 2 months to make the decision and decided finally, okay, we're going to do something for the next 8 years. Maybe we ought to serve in this capacity. And so we got in, and we're all in, and the polling has me winning. And I want you to know that is great. The last poll that I saw had me up 5.2%. Well, the one before that, it was 5.3%. So, but who's cutting hairs, right? When you understand that, there's a margin of error, but they all seem to agree that the name recognition that I gained, the voters' remorse that many voters up in Portland have, because everything I said about John Kitzhopper was true. And in one of the debates, you remember when I said, if he's elected, he's not going to fulfill his term because it's all going to come out. The guy and his administration is corrupt. And it was. And by the way, I know John. I've only talked to him once since the election. That was the day after. But when we were working together when I was co-chair, we got to know each other. Nice guy, amiable guy, served for 35 years. Made some really bad decisions after he tied in with Sylvia Hayes, but that's his problem. But the real problem that we face is, what is the future going to hold for us? As Secretary of State, I will have the ability to audit the programs and track our money and stop the waste. Right now, we're facing Measure 97. Measure 97 is a huge mistake. Brad Avakian, the guy I'm running against, he likes it. He thinks we need that more money. And I say, if you were a doctor and a patient came in and they're hemorrhaging blood, you don't say, where can we get more blood? The first thing you say is, stop the bleeding, right? And that's what we need to do in Salem. Let's stop the bleeding of funds. Let's show where things are working well and where they're not. Kathy and I we were foster parents, and we adopted our 8th daughter. Kind of an aside. So after Mary joined our family and we're having this family council, I said, okay, so we've got 8 girls now. I'll tell you what I'm thinking with the van is that we ought to get it painted Richardson Home for Girls. And they go, oh, Dad, no. But anyway, we didn't do it. But they were a reason for us to solidify and to work. And they got their education, and they were able to go forward. And Mary got a great home and a great family. But we have kids, every week it's coming out, that are in foster care, that are being physically abused or sexually abused or even starved. We have kids that tonight will be spending their night in a DHS office because there aren't foster parents enough to take them in. And when you have the police taking these kids from a family where there's violence or drugs or whatever, they've got to take them somewhere. So they take them to DHS, and what are they going to do with them? Because they haven't been doing the job right to ensure that the people work together to help protect all of our children. That agency needs to be audited. And there needs to be recommendations made as to what's working in other states so that we can change the way we're doing business. Portland Public Schools needs to be audited because they're wasting money, and it's always, give me more money. But I say, well, wait a second. Before we give you more money, what are you going to do with it? How much of it's going to get into the schools? How much is going to change the course of lives for our kids? We're going to audit that school district. We're going to find out what's going on, and we'll make recommendations to the policymakers and the legislature and the governor's office about what is working elsewhere. Because right now, so much of the policy that's made is made as a result of special interests and lobbyist groups that come in and meet with their candidate, their leader, and say, here's what needs to be done. Man, it was great helping you in that last election. We need your help now. And that becomes the basis for policy, and it's wrong. We have evidence-based things that can take place that will change us and bring us from the bottom of the nation in graduation rates and in education policy, and bring us up so that we don't lose this generation of kids. We can protect our foster kids. We can see where the money's going. We can stop the waste. We can, if it turns out that I end up doing redistricting, we can help do it the way that it was intended to be done. You may not have seen this before, but if you see Portland, after the 2000 census, 2001, Bill Bradbury was there, and as Secretary of State, he got the assignment after the governor vetoed what the legislature had done, and he took Portland, which had 13 or 15 districts, made it into 18 districts by creating these amoeba districts that go out into rural Oregon like spokes from a wheel, but stacking the deck in favor of one party from urban Portland. It's supposed to be your community, and that's the way it should be. It can be done fair, without flagrant gerrymandering, and it will empower the whole state instead of one group and one party. Is that important to you? We have the ability for me to win, but it's not going to happen without your help. I need contributions, but I also need a commitment of time, of effort, where each of us looks at what we have to give. I mean, I am so excited about Mike Card, who with Combined Trucking is looking at helping to get signs on the side of trailers that are driving up and down the freeways here in our state. Isn't that great? Not everyone can do that, but everyone can do something. I have 2 women that send me money every month. One sends $2 and one sends $3 right after they get their Social Security check. And they'll write in this shaky handwriting, "I'm not going to let my great-grandchild suffer in this kind of a state. Go get them." You know, I mean, this is the messages we get. And I'm touched by that because every dollar counts. But I can't buy the airtime in Portland without those people who have the capacity to saying, I am willing to sacrifice. If Dennis is willing to give 8 years, I will give more than I've given to any candidate before. But I'm going to write a check that's going to make a difference. And each one of you, I'm asking to send something. One person said, well, I don't have any money. I said, could you give me $20? Oh, I could do that. I gave him an envelope. I mean, do something. I'm also asking, would you commit 1 day between now and the election? I'd love you to do more, but if I'm going to give 8 years, would you give 8 hours? And maybe you could do some phone calls, you know, at central headquarters. I mean, we have the Fawcett's who are helping to organize this with the leaders from our county party, but they need people to be there that will make some calls, reach out to the Republicans, the independents, the non-affiliated voters who view life the way that it should be viewed, they don't always get their ballots turned in. So we need to contact them. We can give you a list of 50 people around your neighborhood that you could go and give a brochure to and just knock on their door and say, this is a very important election. Can I count on you voting this time? There's nothing like reaching out to people that you know or that can identify with you. We can do this, but each one of us needs to do something. We can't do everything, but we can do something. And so if our decisions determine our destiny, and our decisions in the next 59 days are going to determine the destiny of this state, then may each of us say, what can I do to help move this work along? To put my shoulder to the wheel and push it so that we can get this cart up over the hill. Because as Secretary of State, I promise you that we will have greater accountability than we've seen in decades, greater transparency than we have seen in decades, and restore integrity to state office so that we can move our state back into the middle, because this is a great state. It's just been mismanaged for so long, we think that incompetence is the new normal, and it's not. So it's great to be with you today, and I want you to know that Bud Pierce and I and the other candidates, local and statewide and national, we're working hard. But this system cannot work unless the people get behind it. And we are the people. The course of the future is determined by us and tens of thousands of people like us in this state. And we can't control all of them, but we can have an influence on ourselves. So please, will you dedicate and consecrate some of your time and your talents and your money and make not just the contribution, but also the commitment that is so needed for us to have that momentum that will get us across the line and have me become our next Secretary of State. Thank you so very much for all that you do.